Hello again, Warriors fans. I'm Scott Warris. It is time for a NACC Track and Field Indoor Championship preview. Head coach Ken Woodall is here. Ken, we just did this a couple weeks ago, it feels like, and here we are already previewing the championships this weekend, hosted by Lakeland. It'll be up at Stevens Point. Before we talk about some of the things that you and your staff are anticipating out of your men and your women this week, just take us maybe through some highlights so far this year, both on the men's side and the women's side, because as fans who watch these videos know, we've been talking to a lot of your athletes in recent weeks. It's been a really successful season so far. What are some of the things that jump out to you?
Well, I could start by saying that even though there are some obvious athletes who have hit PRs and are getting good recognitions individually, I have to say the biggest group that I've been most impressed with are our throwers. It seems like every single meet we've had someone hit a personal best, huge personal best as well. And not to jump ahead to our conference look, but our throwers now are in the top 15. So we have throwers in the top 15, and I think they have a chance to score in the top 8, and that is the biggest highlight to me. Is just how our throwers have progressed as a whole.
Who are some of them? I'll let you give some shout outs here. Who are some of those throwers that you've been so impressed with so far?
Well, I'm going to shout out all their names, but
Yeah.
I would say the number one thrower who has PR'd consistently every week, huge ones, Devin Splinter.
Okay.
And there's a lot of expectations, with him now going into conference, and I'm excited to see him. Vinnie Brim has also been there with him. And on the women's side, Leah Schmidt, she's had a huge PR in the weight last week. And I have to give kudos to Leah Wierski, to Stephanie Schaefer, and to Olivia Baker. That whole group has done an amazing job.
Do they feed off of one another? I mean, if one of them is going well, does that kind of raise the boats of the entire throwing group, do you think? Have you found that?
Yes, and I have to credit that also to Coach Silas, who has done a great job with getting them together. It's not a large group, but they have bonded well with each other and mixed well, and I think Coach Silas is good for that encouragement.
We were talking earlier this week with Zeke Mitchell, one of your great runners, and I asked him about momentum in his sport, but in the sport in track and field, broadly speaking. And he said there's absolutely momentum. Do you as a coach realize that as well? Because so many of your athletes in so many different events right now are performing at such a high level. It really feels like, my gosh, you and your staff have got to be really happy with the championships now, the way everything is kind of moving in a positive direction.
We are, and I believe, well, I could speak for the sprinters and jumper side of it,
Right.
Just getting healthy. And with that, we've noticed a lot of a return from injury and doing well. One person who I want to put out there already is Bucci Aswala, who has jumped his best by far and threatening to actually break our school record in the long jump. So we're going to see how he does in the sprints and conference. And we also had another gentleman who was injured throughout most of last year, came back from physical therapy, and he's done well sprinting, is Isaiah Krennick. So we're just taking that as momentum and grateful that all our athletes are going to be back. I believe we're going to have a full house of athletes at this conference meet.
Well, look, anytime you enter a championship in any sport, for a coach to have the health of the team that you have is just an added bonus. So give us a little preview of this weekend. It's up at Stevens Point. It's hosted, as I said, by Lakeland University. Friday and Saturday. How do you and your staff, let me ask you this, do you change anything in terms of coaching strategy, in terms of motivational strategies, knowing maybe there's a little bit more on the line this week? Or is it just kind of steady as she goes type of mentality?
I would have to say it's a little bit of both. Our upperclassmen know what to expect with this, but I do think that they're doing an admirable job of getting our freshmen to get into mindset that this is conference. It's time to go now. And we've seen some great performances from our freshman runners and competitors.
What type of leadership do you have across the board to the point you've just made? I mean, who are those leaders, and how do you see them in a day-to-day environment, building up and preparing the youngsters, so to speak?
Well, I'm going to give a couple examples here. So on the distance end, you see Zeke and Peyton leading a lot. So there are upstart runners such as Arnold Ruppnow. There's Tyler Kleinhans in the 800, Ryan Henning. So just to name a few of the freshmen. And we do see the leadership with Zeke and Peyton, and Isaiah Harriet is another one who's a great leader on that end. And with the jumps, Rachel Romans has been really great leader. Anna with running, and we have a few others that are also helping to kind of pull the freshmen along.
Yeah.
So,
is there something, I'm curious, is there something you learned from your career in a championship environment that you try to, bring to your team every year? Something you can pull from when you were competing?
Basically, go out there and do your thing, and the chips will fall.
Yeah.
So you're going out there and you're competing. Now, granted, with a relay, it's a little bit different story, but you know what you can do your best, and focus on that, and everything else will fall into place.
Yeah. And health is a big factor, like you say.
Right.
Ken Woodall, head coach of the Warriors men's and women's track and field teams. And as we say, the NACC championships this weekend in Stevens Point. You can follow along at WLCsports.com for all the results. Coach, appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Continued good health. That's so important, and all the best this weekend up at Point.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching.